need reminders and a nudge to get that shit done, I'm not gonna just do it. If it's Saturday night and I know I need to get groceries the next day, and that means I need to sit down and meal prep and write down the meals I'm gonna make and then, see if it meets my health goals, my calorie goals, my gym goals, and then meticulously plan out the ingredients I'm gonna buy the night before. I don't wanna do these things. And so all of this is incorporated into my routine. Now, I'm such a nerd, and again, I don't say this to brag. I do all of these things because I'm lazy, but I am an efficient, lazy person. That's what I would describe myself as. But like these to-do lists that run on Google Sheets for me, everything runs by formulas and stuff. So come Saturday, it will update with a longer list. It will remind me that, hey, spend at least 30 to 45 minutes today looking at what you have, what you need to buy, and then take care of it. That might be different on Friday. That might be different on Thursday. That might be different on a different month. But point is, adulting isn't always the easiest task. Having responsibilities is not always easy or fun. And especially if you're doing it alone, and if you're able to thrive when you do it alone, then you have all my respect. But I think for a lot of us, and me included, if you don't have that person next to you, or if you don't have that nudge of motivation every once in a while, it does get hard to consistently stay on track. Even if you do really good, if you're really good at waking up at a certain time, if you accomplish a set of goals, if you get to the gym, if you excel at work or school or whatever your daily duties are, and you knock it out of the park and you do it again tomorrow and you do it again the next week, what are the chances that you are doing it 6 weeks from that day? The same exact way, the same level of effort, the same drive, the same energy. What are the chances that you do it 6 months from now? And again, I know this stuff might sound really rigid and really firm, but the only reason that I talk about it in this way is because, again, I hit some difficulties in life where I absolutely wasn't able to do things, not even on a week-to-week or month-to-month basis, but on a day-to-day basis. If I had enough energy today to feed myself, there's no guarantee that tomorrow I'm gonna have the mental energy to eat again. I might crumble again tomorrow. I might fall apart. I might not do great at work. I might just slack in general. And in my head, I'm thinking I'm doing myself a favor, but in reality, I'm not. Because just me personally, I know that that always leads to a bigger spiral. Taking a couple days off and letting myself just be works for a lot of people, but it absolutely does not work for me. And it doesn't mean I need to attack every day with level 100 intensity. It just means that if I don't have the energy for a workout, then I need to go for like a 10-minute walk. If I don't have the energy to deep clean the place once a week, then I can spend 20 minutes just kind of putting stuff away and that being enough. But I need consistent effort in my life just to make sure things stay on track. And what's kind of frustrating too? It's something that I learned a couple years ago, but as you get older, this is when structure matters the most in life. This is where goals matter the most in life. But this is where your stress is going to be highest as well. This is where your responsibilities are highest as well. Think about when you lived stress-free, when you didn't need to-do lists, when you didn't need structure and goals and whatever. It was probably when you were younger and carefree, and you didn't wake up with stress. You didn't sleep with stress. You weren't staying awake overthinking certain situations. You were literally carefree, but you had the luxury to get away with it because back then life wasn't stressing you. You got to just be and hold on to your innocence. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is I hate that when life starts to get harder is when you need to be more and more on your A game, more and more consistently. I almost wish it was the other way around, I wish structure mattered less when life got more stressful. I wish goals mattered less when the stresses were high in life. Meaning I wish you could take your foot off the gas when life is overwhelming you. But for a lot of us, if life is beating you up, if you're extremely overwhelmed, and if you don't have energy, that's usually the season in life where you gotta go even harder at your goals and even harder at your to-do lists and your morning rituals and everything else. When you're already depleted with school is when you gotta work harder at school. When you're already depleted at work is when you gotta pull extra late hours to make up for it. When you're feeling extra depleted in life or relationship problems or just not doing well mentally, that's when you gotta go even harder to fix those things. And I hate it because it kind of runs us thin. We only have a limited amount of energy and it's really hard, for me at least, to always keep going. And I figured if I'm going through it, then there has to be somebody else who can at least relate to some degree. And it's hard. And I think sometimes there is an invisible struggle here too. Something that nobody I know openly talks about, but it's a thought that I always have. And it's, what's the difference between structure and freedom? Again, when I was living a not so disciplined life, but I would have small bursts of productivity, or I hit the gym constantly for a couple weeks or whatever, then that version of me would say structure's necessary, discipline's necessary, whatever. But I'm slowly entering a stage in life where month after month after month, I do the same things constantly for my goals. And I follow rigid structures. And of course, it's a good feeling when you're done with everything and you took one tiny step towards a bunch of your goals, your health, your fitness, your career, your relationship, your hobbies. And you look up and say, hey, I did my part today. But look, it's already 7:30 p.m. now. Now you get to eat and maybe enjoy a little bit of your time before the whole thing repeats tomorrow. And once you've been doing it for a while, then that question really does come up. And it does come up for me a lot, is what is the difference between structure and freedom? Why does it sometimes feel like I'm burning myself out today only to have to do everything else starting 4 a.m. tomorrow or whatever the time is going to be? Starting with the supplements and weighing myself, and everything starts again for months and months and months. And that feeling in the back of my mind that says, says if I don't stay on track, then the rest of my life falls apart. And again, I'm not defending my views here at all because there's probably a lot that I'm doing wrong. And if I'm being honest, a lot of what I'm doing is coming from paranoia too. You know, after I lost my parents, there was a long period of time where life needed extreme amounts of efforts from me, and there was no such thing as taking the back seat. There was no such thing as stopping to grieve. I had accepted a new job a couple months before this all happened, and just 2 weeks after the death, I started a brand new job, a very demanding job. And it's not just physically demanding, because sometimes, although physically and mentally demanding are both hard in their own ways, sometimes if you're physically working away, you're able to be a little bit mindless in it. Mine is more of a mentally demanding job, where for 6, 8, 10 hours a day, your brain has to be working at peak performance. You're writing code all day, you're engaging in meetings, and you're the one running the meetings. You're the one creating the plan. You're the one problem solving. There's no such thing as just sitting and doing nothing, because if you do that, then you have to pull an all-nighter or something to catch yourself back up. And I did that fresh into my grief because, again, I was laid off before and I needed money. I needed to work. And I only share that to say that I know that my approach might be a little bit wrong and it might be too rigid. I think it just comes from paranoia because I lived such a long time pushing myself to absolute exhaustion, being a productive machine because life needed me to. Life needed me to be extra perfect to make sure that the world keeps spinning for the people I love. And I think now that paranoia is still somewhat in me, that pressure to be perfect, that pressure to be productive, that pressure to pull your weight and to not be a burden on anybody else, to not let feelings get in the way, to not crumble, to not be that guy that has to call people at 3, 4 in the morning with eyes full of tears, having negative thoughts like, hey, I'm about to end it all and I just don't know what to do. Because that was me. That was me for a long time. And ever since then, the paranoia just came in even harder. And I think some embarrassment took over too. And I guess I'm here trying to find that middle ground now. And maybe you are too. I only share these things so that we can find something to relate on. Sometimes that reset button does more harm than good. You know, the whole thought of, oh, I didn't do great today, but I'll do it tomorrow. Or this week is already in the trash. I'll start next Monday. New Year's is right around the corner, so New Year's is when I'll get it all together. Sometimes it's hard to know, is that helping me or hurting me? Am I progressing or am I diminishing? And I think these things all wrap around the identity crisis of adulthood. The losing yourself in responsibilities. The feelings of, hey, life is happening to me instead of for me. The struggle of trying to build a routine that matches who you want to be rather than the guy who's just trying to survive what's already around him. And the biggest conflict is who you are today versus who you want to be tomorrow. At that point, it's no longer about the to-do list. It's no longer about the physical tasks and how much you clean and how good you look and how much you lift. Now it sparks emotions. Now it gets into your true goals and your desires and your fears and insecurities. I think everything wraps together in one. And I know most people don't think as deeply into these things as I do, but I also know that if I'm sitting here having these thoughts, then there has to be at least one other person on this planet that's having these thoughts too. I can go ahead and wrap this video up, although I could talk about this for hours if needed, just like any other topic. But I know that my first video that I uploaded, you know, I'm very new to YouTube, so I'm not gonna have views, and I don't, and I absolutely understand why that's the case. I get it. But my goal is to eventually get to a place where I have even a small viewership or an audience to where I can read some comments, I can interact with you guys, and if there is a thought-provoking topic, then I can start to dedicate my next video about that. That way you feel more seen and included as well. I think one hard thing here is that, you know, I'm talking to myself into my shitty laptop microphone, and it's just me. It's not a 2-person podcast. It's not a video call with one of you. So I kind of have to hog the microphone and speak the whole time. But if there are ways where I can have you guys feel more included, then that's the ultimate goal too. But thanks for listening to the second episode of my Let's Talk series. And I hope I can keep this going. And if you find enjoyment in any of this, then feel free to join along. Thanks for watching.